Thank you everybody for joining the March 2026 Sculpslam. We have three wonderful presenters tonight, Mara, Jill, and Derrick in this order. A little bit about house rules. We have about 60 to 75 minute sessions, three presenters today, so it's going to be more relaxed time-wise. Instead of usual 10 to 12 minutes, we're going to have 12 to about 14 minutes each presenter. And everybody will be muted, but except the presenter. Uh, Time left on the notification will be a 14th minute, which I'll provide you a clue as to you coming against your 14 minutes. And it's the presenter self-pace. You tell me when to move to the next slide, and I'll click to the next slide. You annotate your work. Q&A will be an open discussion, will be at the end of the three presentations. The session is recorded and will be posted on our website. Of course, as usual, the material, the content is the presenter responsibility over the content. It's not the NESA. The next session will be June 26th, and you please tell your friends and other members about your experience so they will enlist to do the next presentation. If there's no more question, let's move to the first presenter, Mara. And here's your first slide, and you can start to talk and tell me when to advance.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Hi. I'm so happy everyone's with me. I I've always made art and I've gone from sculpting to painting to jewelry to kinetic work. I've tried it all because it all counts. It all makes your work better trying other types of art. And these are some of my lucite sculptures. What I picked them because I love animals. I think animals have a key role in human relationships to other humans and to ourselves. And I like the holographic sparkles that I add into the lucite. It gives you a different change throughout the day. In the morning, you have some sparkles. In the afternoon, as the light changes, you have another. And in the evening, you have another sparkle. I believe that great art reflects what is happening now. And I first started thinking like that when I thought about F. Scott Fitzgerald. He had the ability to predict the next generation. And from my exposure to his writings, I felt that's what culture should do. I thought art is part of culture, and culture helps people understand why things matter. And art helps people understand why things matter. You could tell I'm not a great speaker here. I get very nervous, so I'm sorry
You're
if
doing
I'm.
just fine.
So, what I feel with these sculptures is that we're in a phase right now where our animals are they're leaving us. Some of our animals won't be here. Our polar bears, who knows what penguins are going to be left with. But I want to remember what's going on, and I want to take it to the next step. Can we change slides, please? And the next step has to do with the new way we are entering with the AI and our space exploration. And that's happening. This is it. We have no choice. It's here. It's not going away. So I want to take what's human with us and take it with us as we evolve. And that's why when you see these sculptures, you can see right through them and you can see the stars, the holographic sparkles. And I do throw in a little bit of, wow, is there something on this slide?
I
Do
don't
you see
know.
something? I see a white spot. Sorry about that. Um, so I think we're moving to the next phase of humanity. I want to keep what's human with us. And when you see these pieces, you can feel like this is something that worked for me. So if you work with a teddy bear is something that makes us remember when we were safe and secure. And we want to carry that with us as we evolve. We want to feel that this makes us human and we are changing. And I could tell you, I just had foot surgery and I have foreign things in my foot, and my foot's so much better. So we are really evolving. Parts of our body are evolving. Our surgery is done by robots. And the world's changing. We have to be with it. We can't fight against it because it's not going away. And art will always be art. But the question is, what art's going to really last? So, can we go to the next slide, please? I do believe that art prepares humanity emotionally for the future. Um, I really do. I feel that when you make your artwork, it's more than just making it, it's really understanding why you're making it. And everyone who makes artwork should say to themselves, what is my social relevance of what I'm making? I'm not saying it's political, but I'm saying, what is the social relevance? And that's really important to really be able to understand what you're making. Your skill can come and go. You can work harder and harder. But if you don't have the substance of what you're doing, it tends to be a deterrent. So we can go to the next slide. What happened to that one? Oh, sorry about this. I had somebody make me a nice piece, but it came too late. So I put this together. Um, I'm very involved with animals. I feel that through animals, it breaks a lot of prejudice that we have among us. We are afraid of things that are different than us. And for some reason, domestic animals allow us to love something that doesn't look like us, yet feels the way we feel. And I always hope that this will transfer to other humans. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Oh, this is a mess. Okay, so this was supposed to go with the cat, not the bunny, but power with the cat was I was going to talk about, but I'll talk about the bunnies. I I really like um, bunnies. I really enjoy them. I paint them, I sculpt them. I've done many different sculptures of bunnies. I like them because they're really clever. There's always that saying, dumb bunny, but it's not true. They're really clever animals. And there's something that I find about their movement that I find very attractive. Their fur, the softness of their fur, their big eyes. And they always gave me a good feeling. And I sometimes have them living in my yard, and I love that when I see them. So I'm sorry about this. This goes to the cat. Okay, we can do the next slide, please. So I do a lot of work with light. Light's really important for my practice. Um, Light within matter becomes a metaphor for our consciousness, and I really believe that. I really believe that light makes us aware of things that we might not be aware of, but for some reason, if you see it in a new light, you have a new experience. And that's why I'm happy with light, working with it and investigating it, which I'm constantly doing. Okay, and we can go to the next slide. And wow, this is off. Okay, so we are multisensory beings. I did make a huge project that's in a museum, a multisensory project that the viewer can come in and experience sound, movement through kinetic, electric kinetic, sculpture, painting, and I merged everything together like an opera. So I really believe that we can use art to teach. I believe that we learn, we have muscle memory, and we remember our smells. We sometimes remember visual images, which tend to change over time, but they're still there. And that's why I think it's really important. I learn through multisensory. So I know that if I tap something when I'm reading it, I will remember it better because I'll have a muscle memory. And that's what works for me. And, it might work for other people. You hope it does, but you never know. So we can go to the next slide. I am actually watching this, so we're almost done. And this is, again, what happens with art. It engages sight, sound, touch, and emotion. My work is an emotional buy. So it's not your big investment. It's something that you fall in love with. And I really believe for artists, if you can make work where people fall in love with it, you can love it if it's saying something you don't like. You can love it for many different reasons. But if you make it for people to fall in love, I think you get a lot. I think you get a lot of further in a human connection. But I'm not, as I said, there's all different ways to love things. And we're on to our next slide. Well, this is my seahorse. I think we're almost done. I timed us. This is my seahorse. I love water. I love the ocean. And I love the sense of floating. And I find seahorses just to be magic. But I wanted to soften my seahorse because magic to me is not a harsh experience, it's a soft experience. So I made this seahorse with round balls, and I actually the eyes are blue topaz, and I put the topaz in, and I made the curve of the tail so smooth. It's like a curve, it's like a smooth ride. And we can go to the next slide. Our future in art is going to include immersive environments. People are going to want to experience your artwork as your artwork and how it fits into the environment. And that's something that we all have to work on. When we make outdoor sculptures, we figure, okay, here's our environment. How does my outdoor sculpture fit? And when we make our placement in museums or homes, we say, how does it fit? But at this point, that's just not going to be enough. We're going to have to build more around our artworks. And I'm not really sure what it is, but I do know it has to be a wider span. And can we go to the next?
I think that was the last
Oh,
one.
good. And I think we're done. I think we're
So
done
thank
because my
you.
timer went off. So,
No, you did great. Thank you. You did it within 12 minutes. Wonderful. Staying on time and providing a very interesting presentation. So thank you.
well, thank
So
you
we're
for
going to
listening.
move up to the next presenter. If I'll make my computer behave better. Okay. Maybe I'll stop sharing first. Then I wanted to arrange the display in a better way. Bear with me for a second. I want to see the presenter face speaker. There you go. Now I'll share again and move to the same spot. And, and I'll go to current slide and move down. And Jill, you're next. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so here's your first slide. Go for it.
Hi guys, I'm Jill Jacobs. I'm based in Stowe, Massachusetts, and I'm pretty new to New England Sculptors. I think I only joined maybe this past summer, and I've only been to one of these. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to know you guys better. Um, I organized this somewhat chronologically. The 100 Vessels project felt like a good place to start. Uh, Currently, my sculpture practice is exclusively using steel rod. It kind of just makes sense with my brain because I get delivered just these like straight sticks of metal, and then I can take them and cut them, bend them, roll them into different shapes. And then, it feels a lot like assemblage, kind of putting them back together. Um, so there's only 50 here, but there were 100. And I used this project to do a series of what I was calling vessels that were all unique shapes. So it was really a way for me to try to learn this material and see all the possibilities that I could do just using steel rod. A lot of these ended up getting used in other larger projects, but I made sure that I photographed them all individually because I wanted to preserve their individuality, knowing that they would look really different once they were brought together in other ways. You can go to the next slide. So this jumps ahead. This is a much more recent vessel, but I wanted to put it here just to show something that I really enjoy about the idea of vessels and about using steel rod. It allows for a lot of negative space. And because of that, you have these unexpected results. So these four photos are the same vessel photographed at different angles. And I think out of all my vessels, this piece feels the most versatile and just really looks different depending on how you're looking at it, which is something I really love about sculpture in general is to be able to see a work in person and walk all the way around it, versus looking at a painting, I think is so engaging and can feel so different depending on like the lighting, if it's indoor or outdoors, depending on the angle. So that's something that really excites me about the work. You can go to the next. Um, Jumping back in time a little bit, this was one of the pieces that those 100 vessels were used for. I think this only used maybe half of them, and the others ended up as other work. But I was trying to create this kind of pathway. So there's two rows of the vessels on posts that increase in height and then get to this kind of like monolith at the end. That's it's about 6 feet tall of this spiral of them. All together. So I was trying to go for something a little bit interactive. You get to the end of the path and then do you try to kind of sneak out or do you turn around? But something that was kind of thrilling about this piece, in addition to the negative space letting you see things different from different angles, it also creates such a different effect when things begin overlapping. And my process is very like meticulous. I sketch things out, I measure things out. It's all very intentional. And so then to have something like this, where there's just this like unknown that I can't control or know ahead of time how it's going to look when they start overlapping, I really like about the medium. You can go to the next. So this is another piece that works with that same technique of creating these vessels and putting them together. Except the one on the left, the five vessels, had a different process because I didn't want to have repeat circles on top of each other. I wanted it to feel really clean. So those middle two vessels, I actually created just like a jig, like a box out of metal to put in between. And so those were built kind of on the fly. But this piece, the idea behind it was like who we are at our core. And so my vessels all kind of represent humans and personas. And so to kind of take this almost like totem figure and then break it down so that the middle three are kind of coming apart and then down to the center vessel was this idea of like when things get stripped away, when we face hardship, when we, come up against things that are unexpected, what stays with us? Who, like, are we when we don't have all of our comforts? And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that center vessel was. I wanted it to feel really different than any of the other ones that I've done before. And it has these kind of jagged edges that come out when you look at it. I didn't weld where they connect in the middle on the outside, so it kind of feels a little bit precarious. And I wanted it to feel kind of like wild and a little bit jagged and messy to show this kind of unrefined aspect of our core selves. I think on the next slide I have some process shots that show this a little better. Those were all the circles I made. The smaller ones were actually for a different process, but it was 14 of these 3/8 inch circles. And something that I've been intentional about with my work is that I only work with the metal cold, so I don't have a torch. I only use manual tools. A big one is the one in the middle there. That's my bender. So I have like my bandsaw and a roller and a bender, and those are my options for how I can create my shapes. And I feel like it helps create a consistent shape language and through line throughout my work. And it kind of takes away that like, blank page syndrome where you can work within some boundaries and restrictions. And so, yeah, I think that helps my work feel kind of consistent no matter what I decide to make. You can go to the next one. Um, so this piece was kind of an accident. I had made a simple vessel that had a big ring, a smaller one, and then six connecting points. And it was just like slightly wonky, and I didn't really like it. I was going to use it as a base for a different piece and kind of threw away that idea. And then realized I just still had this piece and what could I do with it? So, I started rolling metal that had like a similar amount of arc to it, and started connecting them together. And I really enjoyed this process. I started calling this technique like a cross hatching. So if you go to the next slide, it shows another piece that I've made using the same technique. And I really like it because it allows me to be a little bit more spontaneous with my work than I am with my vessels. It's a little less planned, but it's still not mindless. I still have to, figure out the balance of it and kind of know when to stop. So when I'm working on these, I don't go like section by section. I go all the way around and keep adding density and then just kind of feel into when it's the right time to stop. And then I have another piece that shows the same process being used on the next slide. That was a commission, which I don't I don't love commissions just because I have so many ideas that I want to make myself. But this felt like a cool project. I don't think I would have done this shape if they hadn't asked me to, but it let me explore the cross-hatching technique more, and because they had seen that work and liked it. So that was nice. If you go to the next slide, you can see I kind of, my work always begins with like, what if? And always just trying to answer these kind of curiosity questions. And so after doing some of these cross-hatching projects, I was like, what if it was fully dense? What if I fully filled in the form and then felt like I just needed to kind of explore what that would look like? Um, Conceptually, I wanted to make a piece that like showed my frustration. When I started this, I was at a point where I just felt like I had been like trying to make progress and it just felt really slow and I felt like I couldn't see the progress I had made. So this was intended to be kind of like a staircase to nowhere and have all these like repeating steps. And I think something else that kind of brought that point home that you wouldn't know unless I told you, but a lot of the shapes that started in here were of my own scraps of pieces that I had bent for vessels that like weren't quite right for some reason. I didn't like use them for my final piece, or parts that were like cut off so that certain sections could fit to size. So it started off with my mistakes being like the foundation of this, and then it kind of grew off of that. And something that was really nice about this is even though it was supposed to be about frustration, it ended up being like a really joyful process. And then when I was able to take a step back, I was able to see that it felt like I was looking at my childhood doodles. I was one of those kids that was always sketching throughout class, and that's how I was able to focus. And a lot of it looked like this, that these repeating lines and shapes that kind of built and grew off of each other. And so this kind of felt like a tattooing of my personal history. Um, I think there's another slide that shows just some more detailed shots of this. Um, and then the last project I wanted to share is what I'm working. Oh, there's some detail stuff too. Yeah, just put like little by little, cutting things to size, and it was very meticulous but fun. Um, and so this is what I'm working on now. I definitely bit off a little bit more than I could chew. I've been working on this for over a year. There's three 5 foot by 5 foot panels, and I had made these chevrons. And something that has actually been kind of cool with this process is because I've been working on it so long, I've been able to like work on it, set it aside, pick it back up again, let it sit and kind of figure out where I'm trying to go with it because the overall form and silhouette has and like what I actually want to do with them has changed multiple times throughout working on them. But is in a dialogue with itself, like because I made steps repeat, I then wanted to see like there was so much, it was this repeating shape and this repeating shape. What if it was a consistent pattern throughout? Um, and so I just sketched out a few different ideas for what I wanted that pattern to be. You can't really see it here, but the other question I was trying to answer with this is what does it mean for pattern to be three-dimensional? Because previously it was like these flat planes. So those V's that kind of come together to form a diamond poke out. And so those connecting squiggles kind of end up like making a wave that comes like out and back in. So it's a little bit of a subtle pattern when you see it in a photograph, but it does really make the piece feel like it has a front and back, which caused me to cut out the angled lines between what I'm calling those windows in order for the back to still feel compelling. So yeah, it's been a challenge, but I'm hoping to finish it this year. But ultimately, yeah, this medium just really speaks to me, and I feel like I'm able to learn so much about myself through this work, and it just feels like I ask questions, and then the work answers things not only technically, but like about my life, and it's a very therapeutic process, and I really love sharing it with other people and putting it out in the world. So. Um, Thank you.
Last one, 14 minutes.
Oh, it's just process shots to see the how I built the chevron first, and then all of all of the V's and all of the squiggles and put it all together.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Staying right on top within 14 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Yay.
Congratulations. I have many questions, but I'll wait till the Q&A session. And the next presenter, Derrick, ready to take it away? You need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so. Well, let me look. Yeah, now I've got full screen for you folks, and I want
Okay, you tell me when to advance.
to minus the hyphen. I'm Derrick Paske. Hi, let's go. Let's start.
Okay,
I got a lot of slides. Svi doesn't trust me that I can talk real fast. We'll whip through them.
show
Anyway,
me.
yeah, right. Anyway, I'm Derrick Paske, and I was a media professor for 30 years, and I've been a NISA member for wow, 16 years already. So, and that's my website. Yeah. Anyway, next frame. I was a media professor for 30 some years until 6 years ago in 2020. And I gave this talk, a talk back then called Getting Physical, Why This Media Professor Loves His Chainsaw. And the answer to that was that basically that I'm an old guy and I grew up in a village in Iowa. I taught about the media, but I never saw a television set till I was 9 years old. And in the village, everybody made stuff with their hands. And so it's always been important to me. I was a photographer, a serious photographer. I was at the ICA 50, no, 40 some years ago or something like that. But I sort of lost interest in photography when it disappeared in the computer. So anyway, there's my chainsaw. I love my newest one better. But anyway, and that's a big burl. All right, next frame. This is a piece that was made from that burl, and I got it in here just because I want to sing my praises. Because I'm thrilled that this is part of the art collection of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute downtown in Boston. They bought a number of years ago. So the chainsaw was used that cut up to that burl to produce this on the lathe eventually. Next frame. Occasionally, this was made only with the chainsaw. It's a tetrahedron. It was about 20 inches tall, I guess, and had various states of finish as you moved around it. Again, of an oak burl, different one than the start. Next frame. That's my earliest work project. It was dated 1955. I told my students not 1455, but I was a Cub Scout and I apparently got bored easily and I couldn't sharpen a knife very well. But anyway, next frame. That's the lathe, which I use in most cases with most of my art. And it's a sort of wonderful primitive machine. It has some electronic controls, but you take a piece of, in my case, green wood, put it in the lathe, spin it around real fast, and jab a sharp object into it. And I sort of say it's like sticking your fingers in the fan, but it's hopefully more productive and less painful. Anyway, next, and it's a wonderful mess. And then that's often, most of the time I work in wood, and wood is wonderful stuff, including, but one of the hard things about working in this wood is that wood always, no matter if it's dry seasonally, at least in our climate, the wood changes and oftentimes cracks. So this is a series of pieces called desperate measures where I pretend to try to fix pieces that I purposely caused to crack. So that's the first one called spikes. Next one. There's turnbuckles. That one's funny because actually when it would change during the seasons, the clamps would fall off. So they actually had to nail the clamps to the piece to keep them there. Next frame. Those are turnbuckles, similar one. Then later there's a hybrid between a desperate measures and another piece, but we'll get to that later. So, okay, next. Well, no, that's right. Okay, here's another one, a walnut vessel. These are about 18, 19 inches tall, something like that. Next one. Serious bolt, serious hardware. Anyway, it was fun to make that stuff. Okay, next. That piece is a sort of occasionally, I often say that my work is generally, I make classical forms with contemporary surface treatments. And that can be pins, that can be wood burned sperm. It can sometimes I had an applied surface like this, which is modeling paste colored and this sort of like frosting a cake and stuff. That piece I'm also proud of is in the permanent collection of the Peabody Essex, yeah, PBD Essex Museum in Salem. Next. Long ago, I made pots with dots. This is a big walnut vessel, maybe 20 inches tall, something, and I would put dots on it. So I known pots with dots, and then I thought, well, next one we could have pots with, I could change the brass tips a little bit, and they look like, I said, ooh, tadpoles. So I said, if they can look like tadpoles, how about sperm? Next slide. And I thought, well, that's a little juvenile, but I thought this is a wonderful image by Edvard Munch that I'd always loved. And it has a perimeter, frame of sperm around the perimeter and then a fetus. So I thought if it's good enough for Munch, it's good enough for me. So I made a little piece and I called it a sex pot. And next frame. This is not it, but it was similar to this, except even simpler. And I sold it to the museum, to the then director of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Malcolm Rogers. So boy, it was good enough for Malcolm and Munch. So I'd make a bunch of them. So by now I've made 16, I think, usually about one a year. I think we'll get to, okay, next. Yeah, that was 13 recently sold. That was 24 inches tall. Next. That's 14, one of my favorites. Cherry darkens up. Cherry is one of my most favorite woods, and it darkens so beautifully, but a little erratically. That just happened to oxidize and darken wonderfully over time. And for this, I made a special tool so I could go inside and sort of undercut the rim on that stuff. So there are a lot of problem-solving things to be done too. Okay, next. That's the most recent one called Blinga, and that one took me about 100 hours to make, just because I wanted to make the biggest damn thing I could make on my lathe, and it's about 31 inches tall, and that's it. And it took about 30 hours just to put the sperm in. But some people knit. I sit with those on my lap and do that when I use my satellite studio, which is known as my TV room. All right, next. This one, these are another kind of embellishments. This was called the Iron Maiden. I made it and then I started putting pins in it. And then I looked inside and oh my goodness, the pins went through the inside and it looked pretty scary inside, like the next frame. And so I realized it's maybe a mythical thing, but there's a tradition, at least since the Renaissance, oh no, since the medieval period, that people made torture devices of the medieval period, and it had Iron Maidens. It's not sure that they ever really existed, but it exists in memory that are in popular mythology, that this enclosure that has spikes on the interior. And it also has to do with the concept of the sublime, that from the outside, these look very beautiful, but the sublime is having always an element of terror. And if you look in here, it's pretty terrifying. Next. And that's how it was done. I just lay out a grid. A couple of things are done this way. Lay out a grid while it's still on the machine. Then I mark the intersections with a little wood burning pen. And so then I sat down, erase all the lines off it, and then drill the pins for the little escutcheon pins. So, and it depends on the vessel. There are never any curved lines that I've drawn. They're always just a grid, but next frame. They wound up, that's from the piece that just prior. I mean, this is the realization of that piece. So they look like they're curved lines, but that's really the curved surface that's creating the line. Next. The pins can stick out, or they can stick in, or they can go all the way in, or keep going. Next. There's that one. This is called Deep Blue Starfield. There again, it looks like there are curved lines swirling around it, but it's named after both the IBM computer and the images of the Hubble spacecraft. Now, at this point, I decided I'd really gotten pretty good at this stuff, but it almost was sort of almost too perfect, and so it seemed a little timid to me. So I thought, okay, let me make something that's not likable. So try this next one. That's the next piece I made. I thought people are afraid of snakes, but we are all drawn to eyes. So I'd make a big snake with big eyes. And this one's called Coil. I've done a couple of versions of this. Next frame. And it's made from just another small log segment like that. It's not segmented, built up. Next. Also, I was at a wood turning conference at one point, and somebody was making what they called reliquaries, and I thought they were terrible. And so I wrote notes to myself, and it said, reliquary chicken bones. So this is the first reliquary I made. Next frame. And that's looking down into it. It's called a shrine to wishes, or reliquary furcula, which means a little fork. It's the wish bones, of course, and that's gold leaf and African blackwood and so on. Next, there's another reliquary called filthy lucre, a shrine to money. Next one. That one is called sang de boeuf, the color, that sort of oxblood color. And this is instead of the crucifix, this has a tau cross, which is just T-shaped. And it's called the blood of the cow instead of the blood of Christ. I grew up pathologically Calvinist, so I wasn't really anti-Catholic. But anyway, go ahead, next. And that's a little bit of cabinet making. This is called the crown reliquary. The top comes off, and you can that's actually dental artifact inside a crown, and it's spoofing the idea that you often had these suspect, supposedly precious things that were put in these very elaborate containers. And this one is also potentially do it yourself because you can take the top off, and you could put a buyer could put his or her own relic in it. Next. And that was a recent one I did for an Attleboro show at the Attleboro Art Museum. And this is using my own artifacts. This was a reliquary to Boy Scouts, the relics. I'm so old by now that my old stuff is relics. Okay, next. Related to that was an ossuary, a container made for bones. And this is also reminiscent. Somewhere in various places in Eastern Europe, there's the so-called bone churches, where the entire interior surfaces of the churches are covered with human skulls. My daughter had been to this one, and she said, "Dad, I know the point they were making, but I couldn't help thinking that was a person, that was a person, that was a person." Anyway, and this is a bit of a joke because there's no point in burying non-biodegradable Barbie doll heads. So, next. Some more stuff with pins. Okay, there have been 3 of these urchins. This one, next one is fine. There's another one. Wonderful wood. We get all of our wood. It's given to us free. I'm really spoiled for about 20 years from a tree service up in Billerica, north of here. Astonishing material. Go ahead, next. And that's called centripetal. I don't know if their things are going down the drain or emerging from it, but anyway, that's another piece of the same tree that's really glorious. Go ahead. And that one that's 24 inches tall, about 12 inches in diameter. This was called 3456 because it had 3,456 pins in it in 4 different sizes. And anyway, I didn't count them. I did the math. 48 around by whatever height it is. Next. And I also love ancient stuff, partially because I feel like an ancient person, but also a kid once asked me at Attleboro Museum, he said, "Why do you do what you do?" And I said, for one, it's fun. I said, and also, humans, I think, are so awful to each other and to the planet in so many ways. But the one thing that's really wonderful about us humans is that for 400,000 years, people have been trying to make beautiful stuff. So I feel part of that when I do this kind of stuff. So this is a reference to Cycladic art, 1300 BC or something off the coast of Greece. Go ahead, next. And this one is a mix. This is Desperate Measures meets Cyclade head, because there too there's these big bolts trying to pretend to fix the cracks in this big head. That's a big walnut thing about 24 inches tall. Next. And again, this is my version, about 16 inches tall, a walnut version of a tiny jet stone Neolithic pendant that was found in 30, 40 years ago. That's why it has that huge hole through the chest of this figure, of this so-called Venus figure. It's a late one, because that was drilled for suspension. So the original was about the size of a dime, and this is the version that's about 16 inches tall. Next. And that's my homage to the oldest known wood sculpture on the planet, called the Shigar Idol. It's in a museum in the Urals in Russia, and it dates also basically from the same time as that Venus figure. It's Neolithic, about 12,000 years ago. preserved in a peat bog for all that time since then. Next. This is inspired by that previous piece. This is called Sentinel. And I finally, at the last minute, put 24-karat gold leaf in the tiny little spots for its eyes or something. So it's watching over us. Next. That's called Amulet. The head is based upon an amulet from the Metropolitan Museum, came from ancient Egypt, where it was a known item, and it looks like a mustache, I agree, but it's supposed to represent an elephant's face standing on its trunk. So it's a very odd view, but it was a known item back then, way back then. Next. And this is the coco de mer, the coconut of the sea. It's affectionately known as the butt nut. It's an endangered thing. It only comes from two tiny islands north of Madagascar, and they float across to South Africa. My ex-mother-in-law gave me one about 40 years ago, and I thought, well, what every coffee table needs is a really beautiful butt nut. So that's my version. And next.
15 minutes.
Yep. Okay. And there's an update. They're waiting for further inspiration. There are 725 of them. They're on my dining room table at the moment, waiting for something. Got a lot of hours invested in that by now. Next. That will be done in the meantime. This is going to be called Too Cute, all caps, too, all caps, cute, exclamation mark. And I find out there's a known psychological phenomenon called cuteness aggression, that when faced with too much cuteness, humans often tend to get aggressive and hostile. And I feel that way about this piece. Anyway, next one I think is it. And that's a current piece just to show I can still make wood stuff instead of Barbie doll heads. So that's it. Thank you very much. Oh, and it's proceeding. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Well, close
Pretty
to 50
well,
minutes.
just a
Not
minute
bad,
long,
not bad at
Steve.
all. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Yep.
Let me open the floor. Let me stop sharing and put the screen, share the screen with everybody. So, okay, so now we see everybody on board today. So thank you for coming today. And we'll open the session for Q&A. Who's going to brave out with the first question?
I will. I need the very first one. How do you work on a lucite? I have no clue.
Oh, I sculpt in oil-based clay,
Okay.
and then after that, I ship it over to my foundry, and I
Ah,
have them pour it because the lucite's
okay.
very complicated, and you need big equipment to reach the temp. The temperature isn't that high; it's 175 degrees, but the autoclave's gigantic, and
Right.
there's a lot of pieces to it that are toxic. So I
Right.
don't do that. They look like spacemen in their outfits from
Oh,
their
okay.
masks to their bodysuits. So that's how I work in it.
Right. Right. And you do
And
feel any contradiction in working with animals and furry stuff that's all smooth and shiny and whatever or not?
well, I this was the only way I used to work in bronze, but this
Ah,
was the only way I could show the animals as being magical.
right.
Because when you see the pieces, it's hard that I did it. Sorry about that. Was an awful presentation piece I put together. I'm sorry about that. But when you see the pieces in person, light beams out of them, and I like that. That's my best way to capture magic.
Well, and very quickly in the movie Blade Runner, I don't know if you know the movie, it's in far into the future, and there's an owl in it, and someone says, "Is that a real owl?" And they said, "You think I have enough money to have a real owl?" No, it was an animatronic thing by then, you know.
Okay, thank you. Jill, I have a question to you. I would love to hear your opinion about maintaining symmetry or not maintaining symmetry in in your work. Like I'm struggling. I'm trying to avoid having symmetry line because we're doing 3D stuff, right? It should be interesting and revealing new content from every point of view. If there is a point, if there's a line of symmetry, then there's some redundancy, right versus left or up versus down. And I noticed, correct me if I'm wrong, that you try to avoid symmetry. At times I'm thinking that I'm seeing one, and then from a different angle, it disappears. How do you feel about symmetry lines?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's changed a lot over time. I think a lot of my earlier stuff I was trying to be really symmetrical with. It would have, a circular or square top, circular square bottom, and then six connecting lines. And I was trying to make everything perfect. And as my process hasn't evolved, um, especially with like what Mara was saying in terms of AI, but even before then, of just this isn't something that I want to look like it's machine made. It's made by hand. And so for there to be imperfections is a good thing and it catches your eye, and I think people connect with it better. But something that was the symmetry was something I came up against with when I was showing you that core vessel that has all the jagged edges. There's one angle from it that I really don't like, that it doesn't read the way that I want it to because it doesn't have that symmetry. And so I think it's still something that I'm working out. I still think that in my work in particular, I think symmetry can still have that interest and that unexpected because as you're walking around it, the way that the front and the back overlap changes. So I think it still has intrigue, even if it is symmetrical.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mara. Where is this foundry, and is it specific just to lucite, or do they cast other things?
The foundry's in LA. I used to have one in New York, but the man retired. They are just lucite. So, but there's always Justin. So there's always Justin, Foundry Justin. So
Any word you can? I know there were additional slides you wanted to put in your presentation. Just the last minute change. We couldn't afford doing that. Any word or description about the process that you're going through by making these figures?
well, if you want, you mean of the actual making them or my part of the making them? So
Your
I
part,
think
yeah.
I gave you a ton of slides of those beautiful molds, and you could post those because they're wonderful. Did you see the molds that I
No, I
sent
did
you?
not. Only the first page came through, and it was of
Okay.
an additional image of the same thing. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I will send you the molds because they're pretty amazing.
Well,
Um,
maybe
and you
we'll
can
do it
post
next
them.
time. Yeah.
So my pro I spend a lot of time thinking, drawing. I start with little wax figures because wax is fast. Soft wax, beeswax, I microwave it, and I go through the figures over and over, and I'll spend months doing this. And once I get to something I like, then I'm okay. But it's everything's planned out, everything's measured out, planned out. Why am I doing it? What's the purpose? I write for a magazine in the UK. So because I do this writing, I'm always thinking about what I'm doing. And it really helps to, when you really understand your purpose of what you're doing. And this is a very difficult thing for artists to do, to articulate what they do. So I just do it over and over till I get what I want.
Thank,
And
thank
pieces will
you.
fall apart. I'll pick them up and do them again, but it's just a process. It's just a hard process of doing it till you know it feels right. There's that calm feeling when it feels right, when you know it's working. And everybody gets that when they're an artist. You know when it's done.
Yeah. So we can afford having many different sensation and feelings, but you're looking for a special one when you make these animals. You sound like you're very critical about the right expression that you're looking for?
I am very critical, and I am on the phone with my foundry 7 days a week. They do not get a break
I
because
thought
I'm
so.
there
Yeah.
watching. You knew it. And if it isn't perfect, it goes back. I watch every process. Um, I have to because, when you make something, you make it once. I mean, you could make the same thing over and over. I was making pig paintings over and over and teddy bears over and over. But, as an artist, there's a sense of pride. And it's really important that you've done your best and you push yourself as an art to keep on pushing and pushing. And I can see this whole group is pushing themselves, which is wonderful, trying to improve.
I have a question, Mara. I've done a little bit, a couple of times on sabbatical. I took foundry for sculpture and cast bronze at the Mass Art here in Boston.
Mhm.
But so I know it comes. When it comes from the foundry, what's the surface like? Do you have to polish? Is it a state of polish? How does that? I mean,
Well,
the other is patina, and that's a whole world that is.
right. No, it's very different.
Okay.
So this is very difficult. I had a foundry in New York and he retired, and I took 6 other bronze foundries over to see if they can do the work. It's very hard. So you have to make this work where your colors are clear, you have no bubbles, you have no faults. And when you get this surface for these sculptures, you have a big machine like you have in jewelry that goes around and around. I think it's called, you use it, a lathe. I think that's what you call it. I don't know what I call it in jewelry, but it's a big machine. They come with their little sculptures because these aren't that big.
Right.
And they
Oh, I
hold it
meant
to
to
the
ask,
machine.
what is the scale? I meant to
Oh,
ask.
they're tiny. They go from 8 inches to 18.
Okay.
Um, so but I am actually increasing the size because I'm going to incorporate, actually, that's what I'm working on now, incorporate other mediums to put together to tell a better story. So I can actually send you, if you email me, I can send you the whole process. And it's very interesting because it works out very nicely. So after you use your big machine, you go down to your Dremel and you go down to your sandpaper and it
Okay.
goes up to 400. So the surface is really smooth. But the thing about lucite is you can't touch it. So you get the oil from your fingers on the lucite. You
Right.
can't use nail polish and you can't use jewelry, but you can drop it. So I have dropped things down the stairs when I was carrying them up and they're okay. But if I touch it, it's like I have marks, so I have to go out there with, actually I use acrylic cleaner. I put it on a cloth, wipe it down, and clean it up.
But to be clear, so you have to polish it to that level of polish, or they
No,
do it
I
at
have
your
them
instruction?
polish it. No, I can't do that because you
Okay.
have to be in your little space suit to
Yeah. Okay.
polish this.
Okay. All right. So that's
But
why
then
you're
it's,
on them all the time. I can see why. Right.
oh, I'm on them all the time. and um, and I'm lucky because they like working with me, but I don't know if I like working with me, but they do. So
Oh,
I'm lucky.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
Oh, it's just a question for Mara. It's really interesting that you can't touch it because so many of them are so round and friendly looking, like you could hold them in your hand and just stroke them. So that's a very, well, I guess maybe that's the magic. You can't touch it. It's just odd.
well, you can touch it with gloves. So everybody gets white gloves when they buy the sculpture, but yeah, they look like candy. I had a show and I called it Candyland, It's like a candy
Mm.
store because they look really yummy. And yeah, they look like candy.
That butterfly was quite remarkable. The
Oh,
blue butterfly you showed. It
thank you.
looks like it could be 10 feet tall and look like it contains outer space. It's very beautiful, the depth that you can get with that lucite.
It's a
Yes.
very nice material. It's really beautiful, and it's a new material, and they use it in space. So when you have those rockets that go up, you got lucite on it.
Hmm.
It's an interesting material, and I guess nobody's touching it with their fingers or wearing nail polish or jewelry, so it's off to space.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I also had a question for Jill. Um, you your process is seriously geometric, but then you were saying it was more evolving into, as you worked on it, especially the lattices, that they became more intuitive. Now, how did you find that sort of transition?
Yeah, I do like when I try to write about my work, I'm always like it's geometric and organic, and those seem like opposite things. I think the geometric side of it comes very naturally since I don't use a torch. I think it would be much easier for my work to feel more organic and more fluid if I could heat up the metal quickly and then bend it any way I wanted to. And so I
Mhm.
think that's the challenge and the interest of trying to bring in those more organic shapes. How can I take something that's so rigid and make it feel kind of like almost fragile? Um, so yeah, I think just continuing to explore different ways to roll and bend and how to make like smoother lines has been interesting for me to try to achieve without heat.
But
Mm.
Jill, when you say you don't use a torch, what's the heat source? Is it an electric thing?
So I use a welder to
Okay.
actually adhere the metal to the metal. But
Okay, so it's
when I'm
still
creating, those are just the shapes are already made by the time the heat is brought in.
okay.
So once I weld, it's just sticking. I don't weld and then try to move stuff.
No, okay.
Mm. Mm.
But it's welded with yeah, okay.
Yeah, I use a MIG welder. It's
Yeah,
electric.
right.
I could ask a question of Jill because I know your work from Salem and Maudsley. So one of the challenges that you have is that your work is placed outdoors, and so you have the environment affecting your feeling of control over what it looks like. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, that's been a big challenge with my work. It's still something I'm figuring out. So I've worked with a powder coater on a few pieces, uh, but then I'm transporting it up to New Hampshire. It isn't super cost effective. So it's a good option, but especially like with these chevron pieces that are huge, I'm like, am I going to transport them up there? How much that could run me over 1,000? I don't know how much it would cost, and then to transport them again feels like a lot. So I'm still in touch with my professor from school, and he was basically telling me to use like enamel paint and do multiple coats of primer and multiple coats of paint, which seems it's something that I'm willing to try, but I'm right
Can
now
I
I'm not
I can
curious.
make two suggestions about that.
Yeah, yeah,
One
let's
is
hear it.
automotive finishes are better than you trying to enamel something because the base coat is better. And also there is a powder coater in Methuen.
Okay.
You know Dale Rogers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he uses that guy and so have I.
Oh,
So it
awesome.
might be a little bit more cost effective than the other one. I'll email it to you
Yeah,
later.
that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like the other two options are either to go stainless, or to use Corten steel, but I'm not sure that they make Corten in round bar.
Yeah, and the thing with stainless is it's much stiffer. So I don't know if you get the kind of bending that you like.
Yeah, the big reason why I haven't, I work in my garage and I try to, wear my respirator.
Mm.
I have this ventilation unit, but it's also supposed to be like even less good for you than than ungalvanized steel is. So
You're not using galvanized, are you?
no, ungalvanized. Yeah.
Ungalvanized. Yeah, I was going to say, because welding galvanized is not a good thing.
You're like, wait a minute.
Actually, my question about your feeling that you would like to control the outcome when you put something outdoors and yours are transparent. So they interact with the surroundings in a way that I wondered how you feel about, does that affect the design of the piece itself?
Yeah, it is also always really interesting to like see it in my studio, see it on a white seamless if I'm photographing it, and then to see it outdoors, especially like when the work goes outdoors, it dwarfs it so much. And yeah, like as you saw with the reduced to the core piece that you saw in person, because it was just coated with oil and wasn't a color, especially it stood out a little bit better at Salem State, but at Maudsley it just fully disappeared. You could walk
Mhm.
up to it, and if you were 10 feet away, you couldn't see it. You had to be right up on it to see it.
Yeah.
And it was something that I like fought against a little bit, but then I actually thought was kind of cool with the piece. Ultimately, I think moving forward, I'm curious with the white, as you saw on, I think it was like my second slide or something, that the white really pops nicely against like a
Yeah.
green backdrop. So I think that's kind of my ideal solution moving forward. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do love it being outside though too. It feels more interactive. People can like stay longer than they could in a gallery. I like the idea of my work being outside, so I'm curious to figure it out better.
I think it looks great.
Thanks.
Any more questions, guys?
I was wanted to say something. Is there a button or can I just speak? How is that?
Just speak out.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to comment on Derrick's work, and I find we just talked about organic versus symmetric, and I that caught my eye on Derrick's work, and I was wondering, Derrick, like these the contrast that you have in your work with precise dots that look like they have a mathematical foundation,
Right.
and then the material that starts working and expanding and contracting and has gnarly patterns in it and all that. It's a totally organic material, and then it bears these marks of higher mathematics on it. It's just a really weird contrast, and I don't mean weird. I mean it's a strong, powerful contrast. And I was wondering if that is an accident, is that intentional? How
Oh
did
no,
you
it's all
get to
fun.
that?
Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. No. No, actually, it's interesting. I mean, when what he's now deceased, sadly, a wonderful man who belongs to my Unitarian church here in Belmont. And he was a geophysicist, and when he studied, wrote books about gravity and stuff. And so when I showed him that piece about with this deep blue star field, he said, "Yeah, it's a curved space. That's all." He said, "Those lines are straight if you look at them at the right angle." You know?
Yes.
But no, I mean, there's a tension. Sometimes it's clear between putting big bolts through, five big bolts through a piece and that kind of contrast. But conceptually, yeah, there's a contrast too that's sort of nice. And actually, Deep Blue Starfield, it spoofs the notion that it's as regimented as a computer, but like a star field. Well, of course, the star field is not regimented at all. It's completely sort of and even that we see it is anyway. Yes, some of that stuff's in my head. I'll take credit for some of it. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, there's also this piece that you just mentioned where you have this poor little piece of wood and it is screwed together by these forces of the bolts with nuts on the outside. It is that industrial, I see like the impact of industrial brutality almost in the nature that is giving and alive and organic, and it's getting squeezed,
Yeah.
but it also resists. It's
Right.
kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that whole organic thing, and there's a lot in my work. There's a lot of waste, because those big vessels may weigh 200 pounds when they go on the lathe, and they wound up being 10 or 12.
Wow.
So but I'm gratefully I rescue the wood from being wood chips or wood firewood from the place up north. And then when I'm done, I can take the chips to a local farm and all the shavings, bags and bags of them, and put them in the mulch pile here locally. So I'm trying to stay as organic as possible. But thanks for asking, Thomas.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a
Okay.
question. Well, first I want to love Joe's work and love Mara's work. I want to make sure I said the name right. I have a question
did.
for Derrick. Oh, Mara, yeah. So the question is about those tiny little heads. Did you make those each individual head?
Oh
How
no,
do you make this so tiny? Huh?
they're Barbie doll heads. Or
You did not make them?
no. I buy them on eBay.
Oh, I see, I see.
I've asked artificial intelligence, I said, I can buy a lot of these heads. Where are all the bodies? And I'm not quite sure, although people send me pictures, there was somewhere a favorite in some reconsignment place. It was like a flapper's dress from the 20s, except all the flounces were legs of Barbie dolls and stuff. So it's a very somebody asked me the other day if it bothers me that people pay more attention to the Barbie stuff than some of my own more serious stuff. But that's because, it's such a cultural icon, so loaded and fraught with meaning or hostile, or I don't think I mentioned that there's a known psychological concept called cuteness aggression. When we are overwhelmed with things being too cute, we want to get angry. It makes us angry. And that's sort of how I feel about some of that. But no, and it's an elaborate process. I mean, I remove all the hair, and it's a sort of gruesome sounding process, but it's not that I hate women.
Well, I love your work. I've seen your work in many places.
Thank you.
So, uh, so I see it's very interesting. It's a lot of, I'm a psychoanalyst, so I see a lot of phallic symbol, and then you put a sperm there. So I find this very interesting.
Oh, you mean the
And
linga, that one?
huh?
You mean linga, the biggest sex pot?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a few of
Yeah, I
them.
used to call it grande, and then I decided to call it linga because it's quick to say. I looked it up that the linga. A lot of you know that. A woman from India once saw my piece and said, "It is a linga." You know that? I said, "I know that," but it's not a phallus. It's an abstract representation of the male energies in the universe, and that
Yeah.
one's hard to see, but it has the yoni, the female counterpart is actually there's an inset, like a microscopic slide view of the female presence in the top of that piece. So it's spoken as a very, very local American person. It does presume to be about that as well. So it's sort of tongue in cheek as well, of course.
And another thing is the one you use the ball
Right.
some of the wood crack. I
Yeah.
find those very unique. That just remind me of some of the Japanese art. The ball they
Absolutely.
kind of
Yeah.
highlight with gold, and I
Yeah.
think
What's that?
you use
What's
other
that
ways. I
called?
think it's very unique. Huh?
What's that process called again? Mending
I
with gold. It's sumi
yeah
sugo or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not Japanese. I don't know exactly, but
Right.
this just remind me, and
Right.
but it's so interesting. It's so different, I would say.
Well, they're
The
traditionally, for instance, in Hawaii, there was wooden bowls that were passed down through generations, and the fixing of them over time, the accumulated wounds that had been healed as much as
Mm.
possible. That's, it's also a very powerful tradition, I think. And then things that are worth saving,
Yes. Thank
and
you.
trying to fix, There's our boss, Justin.
Sorry about that. Couldn't stop the call, but here we are again. Any other questions, guys? Okay, well, wonderful presenters. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Derrick. And thanks for the audience for the good questions. Very interesting, very enlightening, and looking forward to do it 3 months from now. And
Yeah, spread the word. I think I've always been surprised because Zvi, you and I used to do these a couple years ago, and it's such a pleasant, useful resource that I just try to encourage our members to more of us to show up because I think it's a
yeah,
wonderful gift.
yeah, yeah,
Not me tonight, but I mean just being able to see
right.
other people and hear about their work.
Yeah, and Baida has been, by the way, a force behind getting a lot of volunteers. So thank you. Keep on doing that.
Right.
Great job.
No, Biter, you've been great too. Yes.
Okay. I give you back the
You're
night,
very
Glenn.
welcome, everybody. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. Sorry I couldn't participate well because I'm in class, but it was amazing. Amazing. All of you, you make me so proud to be part of this group of artists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Jill,
echo
we're
the
going to talk a lot
sentiments.
about wire because I'm interested in wire art. We'll talk later.
Definitely.
Thank you, everybody. Also, remember,
Thank
we
you,
have a
everyone.
forum on our
Thank you.
website. You can exchange ideas on the forum. So if
Yes,
you haven't been to the
definitely.
website and you have technical information to share, that's
Right.
the place to do it when you're not here. So thank you all.
Thank
Thank
Blessings.
you all.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
you. Have a
Night-night.
good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.